I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network, and this is a breaking news alert, and this is so despicable to even have to report this. Donald Trump has filed a lawsuit against E. Jean Carroll for defamation. This is a completely frivolous countersuit filed by Donald Trump. I have no doubt that Donald Trump is going to be severely sanctioned. It was filed by Alina Habba, who has already been sanctioned with Donald Trump close to $1 million in federal court in the Southern District of Florida. They have filed this cross complaint or this countersuit in the Southern District of New York federal court as part of their answer to E. Jean Carroll's amended complaint. Notably, Joe Tacopina, the trial lawyer who actually did the trial in the E. Jean Carroll case, referred to as E. Jean Carroll 2. There are two E. Jean Carroll cases pending that were pending in the Southern District of New York. E. Jean Carroll 2 went to trial. The jury awarded E. Jean Carroll $5 million, finding that Donald Trump defamed her and sexually assaulted her. Joe Tacopina was the lawyer in that case. Joe Tacopina, notably, is not the lawyer in this answer and countersuit. His name is not on this, likely because he wanted to be nowhere near this countersuit or cross-complaint that was just filed. This is as frivolous as it gets, folks, and I expect not only severe sanctions to be issued against Alina Habba and Donald Trump. I also think that Alina Habba will be referred to disciplinary authorities in the state bar of New York and wherever else she's licensed by the federal judge overseeing the case, Judge Lewis Kaplan. Let me give you brief procedural history just so you're not confused. There were two E. Jean Carroll cases working their way through the federal court system in the federal court for the Southern District of New York. The case involving defamatory statements made by Donald Trump in October of 2022, as well as the claim for Donald Trump's sexual assault under what's called the New York Adult Survivors Act, which revived the statute of limitations for cases involving sexual assault, revived the statute of limitations for a year. Those claims were tried in the most recent trial, E. Jean Carroll 2, as it's called, that went before a jury. The federal judge was Judge Lewis Kaplan. Joe Tacopina was the trial lawyer for Donald Trump. Roberta Kaplan was the trial lawyer, and her team was the trial lawyer for E. Jean Carroll. E. Jean Carroll prevailed. The jury found, yes, Donald Trump engaged in defamation, and Donald Trump sexually assaulted E. Jean Carroll. They awarded E. Jean Carroll $5 million. Thereafter, Donald Trump went on CNN in that so-called town hall and further defamed E. Jean Carroll even after he was just found by a jury to have engaged in defamation of character as well as sexual assault. So let's call that E. Jean Carroll 2. That's how the court refers to it. E. Jean Carroll 1 is based on defamatory statements that Donald Trump made while he was in office and disgraced the White House and our nation. But he held a press conference and made other statements in 2019 after E. Jean Carroll released her book, where she detailed the sexual assault by Donald Trump. And he made these statements in a press conference and in some other places. E. Jean Carroll sued him there. Bill Barr substituted in had the United States substitute in Donald Trump's place. The federal judge rejected that substitution and saying that that's not within the course and scope of Donald Trump's conduct in office. It went through all of these appeals. That ended up being sent back to the same judge who presided over E. Jean Carroll 2, Judge Lewis Kaplan, right before E. Jean Carroll 2 was set for trial. And so E. Jean Carroll 1 involves the 2019 defamatory statements by Donald Trump in that 2019 lawsuit. What E. Jean Carroll asked the court to do after the E. Jean Carroll 2 verdict was to amend the complaint in E. Jean Carroll 1 to add the new defamatory statements that Donald Trump made at that so-called CNN town hall and that Donald Trump made on his social media platform, and other new defamatory statements that Donald Trump made. Also, E. Jean Carroll's lawyers asked to amend the complaint to add what occurred in the E. Jean Carroll 2 trial, since there would now be kind of stipulated findings, or findings that were made by the jury that are incontrovertible, that Donald Trump engaged in a sexual assault and that Donald Trump made defamatory statements. So by including those new allegations in E. Jean Carroll 1, essentially all of the elements of the cause of action for defamation would be demonstrated, and it really would just be a case about damages. So Judge Lewis Kaplan granted the request by E. Jean Carroll's lawyers recently. I think the order came out about 2 or 3 weeks ago, on June 13th or so. Pull up the order in a second, where Judge Kaplan said, yes, E. Jean Carroll, you may file an amended complaint. So E. Jean Carroll filed the amended complaint, and now Donald Trump's lawyers responded to the amended complaint. Pulling up the order right now. Yep, I was right. It was June 13, 2023. Judge Lewis Kaplan said the plaintiff's motion for leave to amend is granted. And because leave to amend was granted, then Donald Trump has to file what's called a responsive pleading to the amended complaint. So an amended complaint is filed, then Donald Trump responds to the amended complaint. Now, everybody just assumed Donald Trump would file an answer to the amended complaint, and he could, I guess, deny the allegations, although the jury's already reached a finding that he engaged in the conduct in E. Jean Carroll 2. So legal observers were interested, including myself. Okay, how is he going to deny the allegations if he's just going to lie because the jury made a finding? And there was no surprises there. He lied and said that he didn't engage in defamation and didn't engage in sexual assault, even though a jury finding was made. But the shocker here, and this is just horrendous and horrific conduct, like so unethical, so completely just evil as well, to sue an individual who a jury's already found that you sexually assaulted and that you defamed, and bring a defamation lawsuit against them. Here it is. Donald Trump answered the first amended complaint in the E. Jean Carroll 1. So it's defendant's answer to plaintiff's first amended complaint, affirmative defenses, and counterclaim. So Donald Trump countersued, filed a cross complaint against E. Jean Carroll. As I mentioned at the outset, Alina Habba was the lawyer who filed it, not Joe Tacopina. It was just Alina Habba. And then when you go and see, well, what are they suing her for? And you look at it here, the allegations are that because a jury found in E. Jean Carroll's favor for sexual assault, but not on the rape allegations, that any time she made the statement that she was raped by Donald Trump, that constitutes defamation. That is what they are arguing. There's no legal basis to bring this case at all. There is a technicality under New York law regarding specifically what constitutes an element and whether fingers are involved versus genitals. So it gets kind of very technical. But at the end of the day, the jury found that Donald Trump committed a sexual assault. And here Donald Trump is now suing E. Jean Carroll for defamation, acting as though he won the trial where he has to pay her $5 million. And folks, this is just horrendous stuff right here. There's no wonder why Joe Tacopina refused to sign this, because he realized that his license would be on the line here as well. The fact that Alina Habba filed this, I mean, just shows you how sick and disturbed she is as well. As a lawyer, this is just so offensive to the core to disgrace our profession this way. And I'm reminded of the sanctions orders, the multiple sanctions order by Judge Middlebrooks, which will no doubt be cited in a Rule 11 sanctions motion brought by Roberta Kaplan, E. Jean Carroll's lawyer against Donald Trump, and Alina Habba here. And this is what Judge Middlebrook said when he sanctioned Alina Habba and Donald Trump several months back in connection with another frivolous case that they brought. So what the judge said. So who is responsible for this case and others like it? The rule of law is undermined by the toxic combination of political fundraising with legal fees paid by political action committees, reckless and factually untrue statements by lawyers at rallies and in the media, and efforts to advance a political narrative through lawsuits without factual basis or any cognizable legal theory. Lawyers are enabling the behavior, and I am pessimistic that Rule 11 sanctions alone can effectively stem this abuse. Aspects may be beyond the purview of the judiciary, requiring attention of the bar and disciplinary authorities. Additional sanctions may be appropriate, but legal filings like those at issue here should be sanctioned under Rule 11, both to penalize this conduct and deter similar conduct by these lawyers and others. Here was another part of the order, a separate order by Judge Middlebrooks. This case should never have been brought. Its inadequacy as a legal claim was evident from the start. No reasonable lawyer would have filed it. Intended for a political purpose, none of the counts of the amended complaint stated a cognizable legal claim. 31 individuals and entities were needlessly harmed in order to dishonestly advance a political narrative. A continuing pattern of misuse of the courts by Mr. Trump and his lawyers undermines the rule of law, portrays judges as partisans, and diverts resources from those who have suffered actual legal harm. No doubt E. Jean Carroll's lawyers are going to be citing that ruling, which resulted in almost $1 million in sanctions against Donald Trump and Alina Habba. And I, for one, hope that Alina Habba loses her legal license after this. And by the way, she is a total coward. She did nothing at the trial of E. Jean Carroll. Alina Habba didn't even do any cross exams, didn't even speak at the trial, yet she goes on the media and spews all of this heinous stuff. It's really despicable, really unfortunate, but good thing E. Jean Carroll has a great law firm who's going to fight back, and they're going to prevail, and this is going to backfire big time on Donald Trump. I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. Hit subscribe. We're on our way to 1.5 million subscribers thanks to your support. Check us out at patreon.com/MeidasTouch. And wherever you get audio podcasts, subscribe to the MeidasTouch podcast. Have a great day.
At MeidasTouch, we are unapologetically pro-democracy, and we demand justice and accountability. That's why we're spreading our message to Convict 45. That's right, gear up right now with your Convict 45 tees and pins at store.MeidasTouch.com. That's store.MeidasTouch.com.